right, welcome to the 15th episode of It's Server Time. And today, I know Thorin has a drink sponsor. No one else on the pod is sponsored by Topo Chico, but they give me a lot of free shit. And I told them I would talk about them on my next video. So yeah, crack open a Topo Chico and enjoy the refreshing taste of carbonated mineral water. So
if it wasn't for recent news, you would have had to redo this opening because of Red Bull.
What happened with Red Bull?
No, because I'm saying I'm not
recent
really...
news.
Oh, right, for
C9 thing.
Yeah. That's why we can talk about it. That's why we can do it now. I can talk about the drinks. These guys give me like cases, and it's pretty sick. Honestly, if you guys that don't drink Topo Chico, you need to start drinking it. They're trying to get in the esports space because I don't know. I guess it's a market they haven't conquered yet. Whatever. Okay, so this podcast is just a little bit different than normal because we had a guest lined up. I'm not going to call him out on his because he's playing right now with his mixed Brazilian team, and I'm not going to say his name. I'm not going to say his name. And we've got Pr0nogo, and Pr0nogo actually, I usually do a joke, a little gag where I kind of roast the guest just a little bit, where I say like something they've done, but it's really small time or early in their career. But Pr0nogo is still pretty small, so I feel like I'm kind of mean. It's kind of bullying if I just say something like, "You did EDC, the EDC casting," and it's like, but that's kind of what you done. But I guess now
that's it. I mean, yeah, that would just be it. Like, it's also April Fool's on the day of recording this, so you could have gone any. I'm actually surprised you didn't say like, yeah, he's just casted nothing, and that's what he's known for. He's best known for casting nothing. Yeah.
That's even too rude.
Yeah, fair enough.
Actually, since April Fool's,
he's known for being mentioned in Richard Lewis's recent article on casting.
True.
Yeah, yes. There you go.
He's known by people in the StarCraft mapping community, maybe.
Yeah, okay. That is actually true, yeah.
That's probably actually how you might be best known. Well, maybe your YouTube people know you more from CS now. But
yeah.
All right. Either way, we've got Pr0nogo as a guest. He's slotting in here. Normally the guy behind all of our faces, in that he's usually the producer on this show. He was the producer also of the Peaker's Advantage one, which is how we got introduced to Pr0nogo, or I did at least. You had a pretty outstanding interview, I would say, compared to the other people. No hate to any of them, but you clearly showed a level of passion and just smarts and wits that we definitely appreciate.
So what was your reason for choosing me for the show?
I met you in person. I think
that's right. Kind of, I forgot about that.
So I met you in person, and that's kind of why. And I felt like you had some good thoughts about the game, so you wanted to get you on.
Yeah, that's right. The classic. Who are you, the Brian?
Yes,
I remember the classic note.
Mm-hmm. And
that is a historical moment.
Wait a second. Wait, break this one down for everybody else.
You want me to break it down?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Oh, I mean, we were at ESL New York. Ryan's sitting there talking to someone. It's before the matches start.
Yeah, it's like Ryan, Mauisnake, Note, and then me and Brian. I think you came.
I think like Ryan Fairchild or something as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's someone else.
Brian wasn't there yet. It was just you guys, and I walked up because that was the first time I think I was meeting Ryan, and I was like, "Yo," like started introducing myself to everybody, and we're all talking, and fucking Brian walks up, and I don't know what his face looks like because I've never met him before. He expects me to somehow recognize him off of his Twitter face. So he walks up, he's like, "Oh, hey, Note." I'm like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "What do you mean?" And his face just like drops.
So, and then he said who he was, and you said, "No, but who are you, though?"
Yeah, and he was like, no, he didn't say who he was. He's like, "You don't know who I am?" I was like, "No, who are you?" And he says, "I'm Brian."
Jeez.
And he's never forgiven me for that.
Yeah.
Probably never will.
He deserves
it every day.
It's true. I agree. He did.
That keeps him up at night, actually.
Probably.
He's DMing silently while just thinking about it. Yep.
Didn't he actually get an HLTV page recently, or is that also?
He did.
Yes,
he did.
Yeah,
surely somebody was able to remove that after.
Unfortunately, can't remove it.
Yeah,
but, let's just say he has a better HLTV rating than a lot of Premier players right now.
Well.
He has a 1.06 rating, actually, because he got traded. Basically, he played one round and he got traded, which gives you a 1.06, which is really high to just get traded, I would say. Like, why isn't Taco rated higher than for like his whole career?
I wish I could remove like the 2 qualifier matches I have for my HLTV profile, so that like I would only have the space station one, and I'd have like a 1.30 rating. That'd be nice.
And I wish I didn't have mine when I was playing like ESEA main and getting deep into like closed qualifiers because every time I just got owned by someone like Hiko or Wrath or something like that. Like Cadian beat me like I don't know how many times. Like I was losing to so many pro teams when I was just a noob, and I was like, I'm gonna play a qualifier for fun because it'll get me experience, and my rating just tanked because of it.
I mean, at least we haven't reached the doomsday scenario where Ryan at Rush B Media also has an HLTV profile.
Oh, it's coming. Yeah,
I wanted Ryan. I wanted Ryan to go in before Brian. To be honest, that would have just been the ultimate.
Yeah,
like I think Brian would have just left the scene.
He'd just have to walk away. Okay, all right. Let's get into some of the meat and potatoes of this show. We've got a couple of tournaments that have concluded pretty recently. Actually, not quite. We've got two to talk about though. One. Let's just start with Pro League group stage. So obviously this tournament is still going on. The playoffs are coming. We'll get to our predictions later in terms of who's going to do what in the playoffs. But I guess I'll just go kind of round table here. Mix, I think you probably focused a lot on Group C. So let's get into some of the teams that you saw there. We got Gambit on top, Furia and Navi moving to the playoffs. I guess what do you see? What do you see from those teams, or anything really striking about their play that you want to remark on?
I'm not sure. The Furia game was really weird because we just absolutely fucking obliterated them. That was the weirdest game we had with that lineup. Gambit and Navi definitely wasn't feeling like top one for sure. Like they came out, we almost 2-0'd them. Like we almost like the thing that like they kind of got away with, that I think one of the reasons that like I think we would have 2-0'd them if not for the fact that they brought in Bit on Overpass. And so they kind of like they changed up their game a lot. I mean, obviously you could have still lost in an alternate scenario, but the thing we had prepared for was, or at least I prepared for, was Navi playing with flamie still on Overpass. So that meant Boomich was like the A rifle guy, and flamie and Perfecto were like the B players, and then Electronic was the rotate. And then with Bit coming in, they changed it to like Bit playing A was simple, and then instead Boomich was playing short B again, which like really changed like the entire dynamic of their CT side, which made it kind of tough to play against.
I feel like Boomich is a natural short B player. Just he always, like, people that play that spot. I mean, I think Stewie also just kind of constantly pressing for information.
I love short players that are comfortable with like just constantly like pressing for info, pushing it mid round when they need to. Like having info in short and taking it a lot is like so important. That's something we were struggling with a lot when we had Floppy and Zeppa playing it, was because they weren't too comfortable either with the team yet. Like they were hesitant to ever like do anything towards short. So we were just like, you'll see teams that just like super static on B. And it's like super bad when you know you can just have short for free the entire half.
Yeah, exactly. I think that generally makes an Overpass team just so much scarier. I think definitely Buster does it for VP, I think also, if I'm not mistaken. And he'll just like, I mean, basically all these guys, Boomich, Stewie, Buster, will just walk into short late round and just take that water control, because I think some people want to just, use utility to flush out the crim spot, the cut little cubby, and then they want to throw a flash in. And it's like, you honestly can walk into that like a lot. Probably 70% of rounds at CT, you can just walk into short. So people that take advantage of it give their team a huge edge. I mean, did any other teams in your group surprise you? I think you guys won. Everybody beat Team 1, but then you guys lost to MIBR. How's that team feeling for you?
I mean, to be honest, watching them and prepping for them, I wasn't really impressed at all. Like especially if like their macro stuff and their tactics and stuff, it felt very one-dimensional. It was pretty easy to read. I think losing that match came down just to more just the pure stress of the match, rather than like MIBR doing anything different or special or playing really super well.
Yeah. Okay.
I got a quick question about the Navi angle, because we've seen like flamie's coming under some pretty heavy criticism in general at this stage in his career. Do you think that when they subbed in Bit, that was actually a game changer for them? Like, despite the fact that obviously their CT setup changes up and it becomes a lot harder to anti-strat, do you think that they just played as a better team with Bit? Like, is this the start, do you guys think, of Bit just replacing flamie whole cloth?
I think it could be, yeah, because also like it changes like the dynamic of the spots, but like it just overall changes like the entire dynamic of the team when you put in Bit. And like, because Boomich is such like an aggressive player that like if he's like changing the spots, if he Boomich alone changing spots is gonna like change the entire dynamic of like whatever side Navi's playing.
I
Yeah.
just feel like this is sort of what was inevitable with the whole 6-man thing. Like, there's no way teams are gonna employ 6-man rosters for like
Right.
sustainably only for 1 or 2 maps. Like, surely you're gonna use it to basically integrate a new player into your roster over time, which is what Navi looked to be doing with Bit. Also, just like,
yeah,
come on, it's definitely time for Flamie to go. I'm sorry, the man. Like, I think in one of these matches he got like a 3 or a 4K somewhere, and the Reddit post that had the clip in it was titled like Flamie gets a 3K to extend his contract by 6 months.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, come on, man.
The Henry G
how long
line.
has he been on
He
Navi
does
now?
something
Like, is it like 5 years?
really damn long.
It's
Let
a
me,
It's
long
it's
ass
like
time,
it's like
yeah.
it's like at least 5 years. I'm pretty sure.
6 years. It's
Yeah,
approach.
6 years.
It's actually
20
approaching 6 years in
Yeah.
9 days.
Like,
That's
dude, he's been on this
crazy.
team for a long fucking time. Like eventually shit just like changes, and like, you know, maybe he'll go to a different team and he'll play really fucking good again. Like, you know, Hobbit struggled for a while and then was kind of like floating around, came back to Gambit's fucking dominating, right? So I mean, I don't
Yeah.
even think it's like a bad thing for Flamie if he has to leave Navi or gets
No,
removed
it's just
from
clearly
Navi. Like,
this isn't the team
yeah.
for him at this point, right?
Yeah.
That's what it feels like to
Yeah.
me, is that anytime he
Yeah.
tries to get aggressive, he seems to get punished for it, which is obviously not the case with a lot of other players. And then it's almost like conditioning you eventually, like you just stop trying for those picks on CT side, which seems to be the meta in the online era. Try to get any advantage you can, right?
Yeah, always take the fight on your own terms. And the thing is with the way Flamie goes for picks, it's not like I mean, I think the most obvious aggressive players in Pro League were Art and Yakinder for sure.
Sure.
And you know, when they're doing things, it's kind of like when they're going for picks, they're like really going for a kill, but they're also providing their team a lot of info. When Flamie goes for something aggressive, it kind of just feels like he just wants to push his spot.
Yeah,
like
right.
it doesn't seem as calculated in terms of their grand scheme of their game plan. Whereas for Art, Yakinder, even Elige, or like I guess Mir on Spirit, people like that, I feel like when I see them do it, it's like this is providing some value that the other people on the team are going to be able to use to elevate their game just from the info. And with Flamie, it's just like he's just walk, push, and ramp. Okay, he's
yeah, and I think
he
that's where
got two.
Flamie has kind of like lost touch with like as
Yeah.
like the lineups changed over time. Is that like he has Boomich, his IGL now, like obviously like has a lot of input. Simple, of course, I almost talks as much as Boomich does.
Yeah.
And then I assume Electronic like has a decent amount of input in terms of like the things he wants to do. And then like when you already have like 3 people doing that, it makes it a lot tougher for someone like Flamie to like make that space. That's like why Perfecto is such a good player for them at the moment, and why I think Bit will be like a much better fit for Navi at the moment than Flamie is. Having like a young player that literally just has like insane aim that you just like, you know, you just fucking plop somewhere and he's, you know, he's just like playing his own game.
Is he? I haven't actually looked deep enough at a Navi demo to like try to follow Bit's decision making. Do you guys think it's just smarter than Flamie overall, or just more static, which is more stable?
At the moment, from what I've seen, I think it's just more static a bit. Like he's
Mhm.
less like going for like aggressive shit, stuff like that. I mean, we'll see how it changes. Like, because I've only really seen him on that one map on Overpass and Inferno. So
I just
You
feel
know,
like he makes less like he makes overall less poor decisions over the course of a map than Flamie does. Like Flamie, as you said, like he'll reaggress randomly just because he feels like it. And
Yeah.
when you're doing that and you're walking into like, I don't know, Astralis sitting there until 30 seconds just holding an angle because they know that he's gonna do it. Like obviously you're gonna get picked when you're walking into those angles. So when you have Bit sitting there and he's like, he might not be pushing because he is unfamiliar with playing at the level and he just doesn't know like what is a good play, what isn't yet. But I mean, like it's working for them. He doesn't have to be one of those people that's pushing up when you have Simple like having really good reads on the game. You just need to live, honestly. Like
Mhm.
the way Simple is playing on CT sides right now is actually absolutely ridiculous. Like
Mhm,
he
yes.
is dropping 30 kills almost on CT side alone consistently. It's kind of crazy. And when he's doing that and he's rotating around with the op, like as long as you live in your position, you're providing such a good anchor for him to come in and help you. But when you walk into like ramp and you just die, kind of fucked. So
Yeah, I think I still just I watch these Navi T sides, and like you like you just mentioned, I mean the CT sides actually I'm pretty okay with Navi's CT sides, but their T sides are just sometimes just dreadful. I think I'm trying to, okay, I have some notes here.
They don't seem like simplified enough. It seems like a lot is going on.
Oh yeah, that's what I wrote. I wrote there's too many moving parts in some of these rounds. It's just like okay, one round on Mirage I watched, they sent out I think Electronic with some weird double smoke to get him out van, and then he just kind of sat there for a long time. And you would think that in a play like this that like the other team Furia would rotate over and like, okay, wait, we got to get this guy out of here. But Furia were just like, wait a second, we know it's one guy. Like, what are you guys trying to do? And then Navi's just slowly walking mid and ramp or something like that, trying to pinch A. And Furia's like, guys, this is just really obvious. Like, we know what you're doing. It's just one guy B. Like, we can handle that. We don't need to worry. And
yeah,
that strat is also directly out of Furia's book, by the way. Like, Art came up with that specific strat. they're stealing Furia's shots and trying to run them against them.
Yeah, I respect
what do you expect?
I respect it.
I remember preparing for Navi on Train, and like Train's usually a map that I'm like not as good at prepping for. It can be a bit hard for me to read sometimes, like what a team's doing. But like I read Navi and I literally had tells like to know exactly what they were doing because they only did like inner pop, like various inner rushes, and I had a tell from whenever they were doing that. They had like, or they would just like fly out T main and like Perfecto would just like come out T red and just fight instantly, and they would just brawl. And like literally those rounds, they literally just get Perfecto out like back T red. Yeah. And then there's no like plan. Like they're not like executing. They're all just like slowly going out and just like fighting outside, and then just like slowly like kind of like fighting and taking up to the site. Like it was so weird, such a weird way to play.
I've noticed a couple teams do stuff somewhat similar to that, where they usually throw the E-box sandwich smokes, and then they just send a player out or two, and there's not always a great plan around it. They're just like, this will disrupt the opposing team, so we're just going to do it. And I wouldn't doubt that, Navi, you're just doing it just to try to create a situation that they think they can manipulate. But I think it's working to varying effects, I'll say that. So yeah.
It's something that like if they're getting momentum with it and the other team isn't really sure how to stop it, like a team can just brawl you. And if like you're not having success, there's not really anything you can like really do to like drastically change your game plan. You know, you're already sending 4 outside like every single round most likely. So like if you have like if like you know how you want to pressure it, you know how you want to like shut it down, and like that's not working for Navi, it's probably going to go really bad for them. But like if you're just losing your fights and they're just like winning the fight super easily, or like you're just not really doing a good job at pressuring them, they probably are just going to like steamroll you.
Yeah. Pr0nogo, any teams that caught your eye at Pro League for good or for bad?
Well, I mean, this might be where we just turn the tables and talk to Mix about Cloud9 in general.
Okay.
Because that was the main team that I ended up catching the games, just fortuitously, perhaps, because that was when I was not in the middle of casting or doing any of my other stuff. That was when I turned on ESL. Those are the games that were live. And, you know, Mix, you talked earlier about the fact that the pressure of the game against MIBR is what you think kind of got you. And since I'm happened to be on the show this time, I can ask you directly. One of the things I floated on an episode of Elo Heaven was whether or not the Henry G style of getting everybody hyped up about the team and getting all eyes on deck, so to speak, whether or not that had a very destructive effect on the team, where some people say, well, he's just doing his job and getting the hype people there, right, and getting people interested in the project. But it does seem like there have been issues with regards to morale, perhaps just keeping everybody somewhat focused about the game here and now and not worried too much about the stakes that might be at play. So did you have any thoughts on that in general and maybe in retrospect, even though obviously it hasn't been too long since the announcement that C9's pausing their project? Do you think that this was almost inevitable when the results didn't immediately come in, or how do you feel about in general the Henry G stuff?
Yeah, like it felt like as soon as like you play the first match or like the first event, you don't really get a good result. It's so easily just teams roll from there. And I don't think it's just the Henry G stuff. It's a combination of like a lot of things. It's like just the overall history and popularity of Cloud9. You know, like winning the major, like all the way back to like the Shroud days. Like it kind of, you know, the pressure on C9 even like kind of stems from those days. So like you have that, you have like the Henry G hype, you have like Henry G releasing the salaries, you have the fact that like we couldn't actually boot camp at all. We had like one 3-day boot camp or something before people had to go back home, and so you don't have any of the teams together. They're all just like playing separately, which makes it hard to like create like a good environment. And so it just creates an environment where like, yeah, every game just felt terrible. Like I remember I saw a Reddit thread, like someone like posted like the clip of like Cloud9 after beating Furia, and like they noticed that like they said like I've literally never seen this team look happy. Or like,
oh, man.
or they're like so there's like another comment like, dude, every time I like watch this team play, they just look so fucking stressed out, and it's like, and I was like, I actually agree with that. I was like, they look so stressed out all the time, like they're never gonna get like results if you're just playing like that. Like there's so much pressure on yourself.
Was there some sort of inkling that this is that this event, if you guys don't get a good placement, was like, was it, or was this event even the reason? Like, do you have any idea what was going on in upper management? That you want to talk about, obviously. So
yeah, I mean, I didn't expect it, but like once it happened, I can't say I was like super surprised by it, especially because it still was looking bad for how we were gonna get a boot camp going or get people to America and stuff.
I'm curious why, if they were so willing to pull the plug after, how long was this? 8 months or so? Or was it? Yeah, whatever. I'll just say 8 months.
Like 6 months.
Okay, like six months or so. Why are they signing 3-year contracts? What is?
Yeah, that's a bit puzzling.
I'm just curious from any, like, is there any argument for why? Why don't they just keep them on payroll? They already have the contract. Is it the benching clause makes it so they pay less or something?
Wait, what do you mean?
So like, if they're already all signed for 3-year contracts, why don't they just ride it out? Because like, what are they providing? What is Cloud9 after a while providing that isn't already guaranteed in the contract as is?
I'm not sure. I'm a little bit confused by the question still. Like,
okay, like
I mean, I feel like 3 years is just like the standard, especially for orgs like C9 at the moment.
So what I'm just saying, like, why is it a standard duration when they pulled the plug after 6 months? Like, where did those other 2.5 years go on their contracts?
Oh, well, I mean, from the now they're still just benched, I'm pretty sure. So
they basically are saving money by paying the bench, like,
yeah,
amount?
I from what I have seen and even just read, like based on what Jack told like Ryan and stuff, what it seems like is like they are benching like everyone for now, and then it seems like they do want to like try to sell everyone somewhere, and probably maybe like more for like reduced prices than like what their normal buyout would be, and like just kind of like get a restart on the project essentially later down the line.
Okay. I know you had some thoughts about where maybe Cloud9 could move their CSGO ventures. Do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, I mean, I've thrown out the suggestions down there of like I mean, I even threw this out like months ago of just seeing like all the other teams doing like academy teams and stuff. Like, I guess my main idea was just like seeing how like Gambit has done the Gambit Youngsters thing, and like even after they got rid of like their main team, right? The other team was still called like Gambit Youngsters, and I think that aspect of it really helped for like letting that team just like grow by itself and not like having those expectations that I might even put on themselves for like, oh, we got to live up to this fucking like major winning team, right? Like my idea, essentially, maybe what I think C9 should do is just try to do something like that. Like try, if they come back into the scene, like maybe don't go in with like such a huge hype team. Maybe go in with like a team that you got to kind of develop a little bit and like separate them a little bit from like the normal, like the main Cloud9 name, like try to like separate it from like the history a little bit, kind of temper the expectations.
They have like Cloud9 Blue and Cloud9 White in Valorant, so I don't know why they wouldn't run like some form of an academy team, especially now. Like before, when they had Cloud9 playing in North America, I could understand not having an academy team because there could be like conflict of interest issues in terms of the teams playing in the same region. But now, if they're gonna have their main team playing out of Europe, you might as well have some form of an academy team in North America that you can actually like help develop as well. Because the other issue is that because in North America the primary
I think
league...
one of the I think one of the big reasons was just that like, so like you get like an academy team, right? You like kind of build it up, and like say they like qualify for like a dream hack or something. It's kind of shit that like they qualify for that dream hack, and if like the main team's already there, then like you can't fucking go, like you can't.
Yeah, exactly.
There's so many events that you like can't attend because of like the whole conflict of interest thing, and that's something that I actually wish that like whoever that rule is from, I think ESL or something, like whoever like maybe like laying back on that rule a bit, especially with like the state that CS in general and like the NA scene especially is in, where it could like use that help, with academy teams and stuff. But like, I'm sure there's not really a point for like Liquid doing an academy team if they can't play like, at the same events.
I mean
And
that, or you set like a pretty short duration on the contracts for the academy team, like you sponsor them for 6 months or a year rather than a longer term contract, and you try and get like a buyout from another organization after helping them. For example, like you could sponsor Bad News Bears in MDL or in Premier right now for a year. That would help them immensely in terms of giving them like some sort of base, and you can sell them. Like you think you can't sell Jonji to a big org in a year, like if they're looking for someone who's aggressive and an entry fragger, like Jonji's stocks are fucking really high right now, man.
Yeah.
So like there's players that you can get that would genuinely like get you good money in terms of a buyout. Just as like an academy roster, you wouldn't even have to pay them much, trust me. Like even Swisher was on here last time. He told us how much like they'd been asking for, which is not much at all.
No.
So
Right.
I just feel like, especially now with Cloud9 playing in Europe, you have like a really good chance to build some sort of an academy roster. You don't even have to name them Cloud9. You can use like, I don't know, you can use your Overwatch League branding if you really want, or like some other branding if you really want.
What is there? Was it called Sky something or Skyfire?
London
Spitfire.
Spitfire, yeah. You
Yeah.
can use like whatever branding you want, man. But just like if you have that sort of money and you're willing to be able to like develop some talent, now's the time to do it, really.
There you go. If they go for it, I'll give them this for free. Just call it C9 Project. So it looks like the P is the 9 in C9. That's some free branding for you guys. Don't be afraid to credit for me when you guys do it. But I don't need any payment. Just know I came up with that one. I guess we could talk about a little bit more about the performances of C9. So you guys didn't make it out of the group. You went 2-3. I think the biggest and most impressive victory was the Furia one. I mean, you actually just smashed them. You gave them 7 rounds in a whole series. I mean, 32-7 is, you made them look like chumps, actually. So good on you guys for that one.
I just don't think I don't think any players like true level or like I don't think this team really ever even like got off the ground running. Like I don't think this team ever got past like step 1 in terms of like building confidence and like becoming like an actual team. I feel like it didn't really have the chance or really stand the chance. Like people will be like, "Oh, Alex is such a overrated IGL," and like, no, definitely not. Like I still think he's one of the best IGLs in the world, but it's hard to fucking call a good game every time when everyone's so stressed out. Like that's literally impossible. Or like S-Attack's performance, like obviously the pressure was super high on him, and I think he was forcing himself to like try to be like like the star player on the team because of his contract and stuff. When I think he's probably better being just like a super fucking overpowered like role player type guy.
Actually, obviously on that note, do you think the fact that Henry G released like the salaries added to that pressure? Like, do you think that was pressure based on S-Attack knowing his salary, or do you think it was pressure based on everyone else knowing S-Attack's salary?
I think kind of like everyone else and just kind of like a new step for S-Attack. Like I don't think that the salaries alone is like that big of an issue, but when you combine the salaries with like the hype itself and like the history of Cloud9 and like everything, like it definitely like makes the issue a lot worse. But like I feel like if the expectations were like tampered a bit and like it was like, yeah, like it's a brand new team, it's a brand new 5, it's gonna need time to build itself up and stuff, and then you were still like releasing the salaries, I don't think it would have been as big of a deal.
Yeah,
because I think people would have recognized and said that like, yeah, most likely other teams have like much larger salaries for some of their players.
Yeah, I feel like if it were all public, that would not be really an issue. I think that's something that fans might have attached themselves to. I know that it's not for a lot of people that are their whole job is to perform in the public eye, that it's just one facet for fans to maybe latch onto here or there, but and for it to be used against them as ammunition. I was talking to Semler about this, and it was kind of like, I think it felt like this was overall a good step in the right direction, but what we came to the conclusion of, myself and Semler, I think, was more along the lines that Henry would hype you guys up in a way that just felt like you were almost setting yourself up for failure. Like it's kind of like you're putting such lofty expectations on the roster, and then maybe he's kind of being a martyr, maybe he's kind of being he's being the target or trying to be the target, the lightning rod of the anti Cloud9 hate, but at the same time, it's never going to be like that. It's going to be always targeted at the players. It's always going to be like,
Like even
price
me,
tag
like I
memes and
still
shit.
personally attach myself like with Cloud9 and our results, and like when I go
Yeah.
on Twitter, I go on Reddit, and I see everyone just shitting on the team. Like I still take it personally, like
Mhm.
I'm not just like, oh well, that's Henry's problem, like it's like it
Right,
still fucking
exactly.
sucks. Like it sucks to look at.
I mean,
Yeah,
you
and-
touched on it, and I think it is one thing that like the general fans just don't understand is that the lack of being able to be at a boot camp or be able to actually be around the players in person is a huge factor.
yeah.
Like the fact is that you're talking about the stress that the players are showing and being together online. Like you're still going to be stressed, but you're also going to have the people around you being like, "Yo, nice try," like fist bump, shit, whatever. Like it's the entire mentality just shifts when you're around each other rather than just calming on a team speak with each other. And it's like you're not going to build a real team dynamic just based on online play at that level.
Yeah, I think on the Stratbook episode with Kassad recently, I think it was either Kassad or Thorin talked about how that crazy team, the one with Hunter and Nexa, I think it was them. Their coach implemented something where it was like he'll take down marks basically if in person they do bad body language or say things poorly, but he'll give them positives if they fist bump each other. So they just started all fist bumping each other all the time, and it just became like ingrained in them.
Oh, it was one of the German teams with Nexa or something, I think.
Okay, then either way, it was some team that did that, and I feel like overall it improved their morale to the point where, I mean, morale matters a lot. I kind of have been flip-flopping on my ideas of how much morale matters, but after playing a season of Premier again, I remembered that morale fucking matters. Like you need to have decent spirits, or you are gonna just dig yourselves in holes that if you're already down in rounds, the worst thing you can do after that is have emotion.
Yeah, I mean, you can make your plans, and you can have your strats, and you can talk about how you want to play the game and stuff. But like, if you're not comfortable and you're not confident, like it's just not gonna work. And like, if you're just playing stressed out and you're playing not to lose, like it doesn't matter what players you have. Like you're never gonna find success. Like I think it might have been different. Like if like Henry got like his initial idea of like Hunter and Nico or whatever the fuck he wanted to get, and like so he had like more of like a stacked lineup. Even then, it would have been like a lot of pressure, and I'm not sure it would have even worked out then. But like especially when like he had to like kind of go from that to getting like more young players, like having to pick up Floppy along with Mezzi and having to get like Zeppa with like the second iteration with the lineup. Like
right.
See, I feel like it really sucks for Floppy and Zeppa because they are really good talents, but they just weren't the right pieces for this roster. Like Floppy maybe, but Zeppa, like I feel like he did deserve the chance. But the fact is that like without being able to properly develop on a team is just like it's not going to build properly, right? So adding those pieces to a roster, especially when you're losing an opper and you're adding a rifler, then you're making like two players change roles into an opper. It's just going to be really weird. Like regardless of how good you think you can be on the op, it's just like the whole shift that you have to do in that team is just getting a little bit ridiculous.
Isn't that just an issue with building a team from the ground up instead of having like a set core that you add to? Like roles for me felt like so hard for this team at all.
Yeah, I think it's super hard and like incredibly unlikely to like build a new team from scratch with like 5 new players, and like the odds of like that team of like that core, like that team of 5 is gonna like instantly like have insane chemistry, and like everyone's gonna like not just like love playing with each other, but also just like like naturally just play well off of each other. Like the odds that you have 5 people in like a 5-man lineup straight off the bat that's like capable of doing that is like so low. And like we saw with Woxic, like I think if you're building a lineup like that, first you need to take your time and you need to figure out like with that first 5-man lineup, you just need to figure out like what your core is, like what pieces are working in the long term, what pieces don't really fit as well.
Also, like I've seen people comparing this to Complexity's Juggernaut just because of like the whole Juggernaut Colossus like dynamic. But the fact is that the Colossus was something entirely different because not only was this team like built piece by piece, like one player at a time, not that Cloud9 wasn't, but the fact is like these players all got to go to Complexity's bootcamp facilities and actually like practice and play over an extended period of time together in Dallas before going to Europe as well.
Yeah.
So
they literally spent like the last 2 to 3 months of 2019 literally just like boot camping and scrimming.
Exactly.
Like playing together.
And that's like that, and that was at the start of their roster too. It wasn't like they played a bunch online and then they went to this bootcamp. Like they did that right off the bat, and the amount of chemistry that allows you to build is like exponentially more valuable than anything else.
And even then, like they literally remember like the first two like qualifiers they played where they lost to our C9 ATK team and like the DreamHack and the IA and Katowice.
Yeah, it took time for them to gel. It took time for them all to, and that's just what you have to expect, which is another reason why, again, going back to the Henry G stuff, it was a little audacious of him to say, I'm going to build a team of 5 disparate parts, and then we're going to win the first tournament for $1 million.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
It's like even though the first event doesn't work out, and I don't think people took like going out in Flashpoint 02 like that hard or anything. Like, it's just like the expectations were there, and then it's like it kind of moves on to the second event, and you're still struggling to get off the ground. And by the third event, you're still like struggling, and you're thinking like, why are we still like playing bad? You know, like why haven't we like got off the ground and running it? And it's like, dude, like your third event is like a core 5 that's playing together for the first time. That's literally nothing. That's literally still so new. Like that's even like 4 or 5 months in. Like you're still such a new team when you have like a core like 5 players that just came together for the first time. Like that shit takes time.
Yeah, it's I mean, okay, so what do you think if you guys could have gotten a boot camp, like let's say after Pro League finish, you got, I don't know what your next event would have been, maybe Blast Showdown or something like that.
I think it would have been the RMR in like May or something. It would have been a while because we failed to qualify for like Blast and stuff.
Oh, you didn't get into Blast Showdown. Okay, well, I mean, if you got that month and just got to practice, I mean that could have just completely
our plan before like everything got dropped, I think, was to like take like a break, take a breather until like the 12th, and then hopefully try to get something going, and like either like we try to get like a North American boot camp going, like because that's where the team was supposed to be based out of, just in general, like trying to get something going like that, get everyone in person.
I still look at it like this. I think like this. If Flashpoint 2 had actually been a LAN, C9 gets to playoffs so easily. Like they all, like Virtus Pro fucking falls apart. I guarantee you they would not be finding success the same degree on LAN. I 100% guarantee. Nobody's wide swinging. Like,
I don't know about that.
Listen, nobody's wide swinging and then going duh to Yanko on an ESL desk. Nobody's doing that on LAN. I'm just saying. Okay, Yikinder? I'm just saying.
Listen,
my god, he's gonna do it.
Can't doubt the profit you can do.
Maybe he will, but that is like an unknown quantity. Whereas I think a lot, especially like Woxic, right, on his debut, if that's LAN, I guarantee it's a completely different story.
I will say Woxic would have been elevated for sure.
Fuck yeah, he would have.
Yeah. Woxic would have played better.
I still think will be like a top player on LAN, just because I think he's also very vocal and seems very confident in himself.
He would need to change some aspect of his playstyle though. Like it's just mechanically the game doesn't work to facilitate the stuff that he's doing right now on LAN.
It doesn't, but I think Yikinder also understands that. Like he's one of the players who actually works really hard. Like the amount of work he does individually just to like anti-strat teams on his own and make his own little individual plays, like that stuff does translate on LAN, regardless of the wide swinging style that you might have. Like he knows that he can't do some of those same moves on LAN, so he'll be able to play into his own playbook when the time comes, I think.
Yeah, there's support for some of his plays sometimes. I mean, like you think of like sometimes the Katowice rounds he had against Astralis though, and like obviously those
Liquid
are just crazy 1Ds, but like a lot of his openers and rounds are supported by utility or Jame holding an angle that Yikinder needs to doesn't want to worry about, or another rifler buster behind him, whatever it is. Like there's method to the madness for them. I guess we could talk about maybe let's move off Cloud9. Let's talk about some other teams then, I guess, because we have there are a lot to go through here. So did anybody else catch your guys' eye other than the Cloud not losses?
I want to say EG really did not impress me in this group.
That was a yikes. That was big.
Whatsoever.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
I didn't expect them to come out swinging, honestly, but just they looked really lackluster throughout most of their performances. Like they opened so strong against Astralis, and then Astralis went on to demolish everybody else, and EG just.
They lost the endpoint.
They lost the endpoint, exactly.
Oh my god.
I didn't even catch that game because I was watching the other two, which I think was Liquid VP and Astralis Fnatic or something.
Oh, you just write that one off, surely. You're
exactly. I was surely. They were even up I don't know, I think the score was 4-1 or something at the start. And I was like, oh, okay, they'll close this out, no problem. I checked back and it's 16-10 or something. I was like, nice, okay, great. So on the positive side, Obo played decently well.
I was gonna say yes. I was gonna say that.
But I just think the team looked really lost, and I'm wondering like where they go from here at this point. It is just like their first event, so there's definitely like I think they can build off of it, but it wasn't promising. I'll say that.
This is sort of tangential.
I will say I'll give them like some benefit of the doubt, and that because like they did like just add Obo, and also I think they maybe came in a bit rusty because they weren't playing for a bit, because Ethan left and they were still like looking for a fifth, and just in general in NA there's not really much practice, especially that Liquid isn't really here often. So
there's tons of practice playing Valorant, not much CS. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so maybe it came in a bit rusty, but it definitely didn't look that great for a first event. But give them like a couple more events, see how they're shaping out.
Yeah, I just feel okay, go ahead.
No, go for it. Go for it.
I just feel like this is probably Obo's last chance. If EG don't make an action, I know it sounds crazy because he's so young, but if EG don't make like a really strong finish, somebody will have to take a risk on Obo instead of it being a brainless pickup. Like all of us were saying, why is Obo not on a team? Get him on a top team, get him playing. If EG like bomb out of a bunch of tournaments and then disband or something in like 6 months time, and they've gotten nothing and they've turned no heads and Obo doesn't even look like a shining star on an otherwise rough looking roster, then like people start to think, well, is it because of a lack of commitment? Like, is it because like obviously the way that he left Complexity was a little acrimonious in that respect, even though that was kind of kept close to people's chests. So even though it sounds like I'm talking nonsense when I say I think it might be one of his last chances in CS, it does feel like there's not really that much room in NA for him, apparently, because it took him so long that he was really weighing his options. And if this roster doesn't really change their tune like soon, I feel like I do worry he could end up in some purgatory and then just have to go to Valorant.
I think I see that from two sides. I feel like yes, there isn't room on NA rosters for him, but I also feel like in terms of the EG players, Obo and Breezy stock won't drop. Okay. Like I feel like if stock for any of these players is going to drop, it's going to be like Stanislaw or Cirque or Tarek. Sure. Like it's going to be one of the three, like aside from Breezy, like one of those three core players, just based on the fact that like Obo played well. I want to say like he wasn't like 100%, but I don't think he was the issue in this game at all. I don't want to.
He didn't lose them the game for them, right?
Right, and I think if EG like make additional changes, it wouldn't be Obo going out at this point. Like also like remember Obo's 17. Like this kid has such a long future ahead of him if he plans to stick with this game. So I think like in terms of the changes this team would make, he wouldn't be one of their. His stock will remain high in terms of like another team looking to pick him up. I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that I think Obo is just right now. I almost feel like people wouldn't actually even really be it's very difficult to pin the blame on Obo because I think when people watch EG, the main complaints are kind of like the structure or lack thereof. I think more people kind of worry about the way Stan calls or maybe Tarek plays individually because it's always very free flowing CS sometimes with Stan where it's just kind of like the way I describe it is just kind of these pockets of aggression where it's like Stan's just going to trick you one round because he's going to send 3 people out a ramp to get to Tetris, then he's just going to fall back or something like that. He'll do these like little like pushes that make the other team respond really heavily to it or try to like outline a way to counter it, but then he'll just like sometimes he'll go with it, sometimes he'll just back off of it. But then other rounds it's just so default walk everywhere. Tarek, you look for info while Stan looks for info, and then they try to make a read, but it's like then you just lost Stan and Tarek and no one traded them. Like there's so many rounds like that too. And when Obo and Breeze have their backs against the wall in a round that just got really fucky, it's just like they usually do pretty well. Like Obo had a couple of nice moments. Breeze is back though. Like that's something I gotta say. Breeze is like playing incredibly well right now. Mechanically speaking, his spray control is I think he had that highlight where people were running out of apartments on him and he was playing the bike angle. Usually people will get one there, literally just one kill. He got 4 or something. I've never even really seen, I don't think I've ever seen that with a rifle. I don't think anybody's ever done that. So he is, anyone will pick up him. And I think Obo, he still has this knack for finding multi-frags because his aim is just so fast. Like he's so accurate and just playing around like one piece of cover. He's just really snappy and like can extend his life sometime, or extend the amount of value he can get out of position. So I wouldn't hope people would blame that against him. But if things come out about his personality, I could see your angle Pr0nogo coming to fruition.
Yeah, it's not really a thing about blaming them either. It's just a matter of like Obo specifically, the fact that people were already wondering what was going on when he sort of dipsetted from complexity like out of nowhere, and that was out of nowhere for a lot of people. And the circumstances surrounding that, then him saying, "Oh, I'm actually fine to play in Europe. Forget about that departure I just made," and like, if you just think of yourself as just a reasonable person or a pundit or whatever on a desk or something, you can find a bunch of different reasons why a 17-year-old kid would be really desperate to get back home in the middle of a pandemic. But I don't know that that's the way that esports hirings work for players. I don't know if they consider all that stuff to the same degree as maybe this is just a risk that we don't want to take. That seems more like what esports hirings look like, especially after listening to that Thorin video where he broke down all of the lack of hirings from Flashpoint teams and stuff. It feels like if there's any excuse that people can find to not hire a player, especially one who would command a salary like I imagine Obo would, then that excuse may very well be taken. And it feels like he has to so heavily stand out on this team to have another shot. And that's, again, assuming EG themselves don't just work as a team, which remains to be seen.
I just feel like, well, I mean, on a tangent here, but like on that Flashpoint team note, I just feel like that's just on the teams themselves. It's got little to do with like the players having some detracting factors. Like, it just seems like none of these teams actually made an effort to do their research and look into like the right players that you would want to build around. Like, how did nobody think to pick that Chaos lineup up when they were literally free to pick up all 5 of those players, by the way? Or like even individually get Zeppa or Jonji, like you guys would have been able to build off of those players very good pieces. It's just shocking to me on that tangent. Like why that's all on the teams in Flashpoint.
I think the Chaos thing mostly is if you're coming in as an investor, your esports division pitches to you this team that, oh, we can get the 4th best team in North America, and they say great, and then they say, can you explain to me how the CSGO ecosystem works? And then you have to tell them, how are we going to get a return on investment? Well, there's the sticker money, but we can't get sticker money because Steel, the main head and leader of this team, is banned. And for a VC head, it's a lot harder for them to be like, you know what, we don't care about the major. Like,
but Steel wasn't on that team at that point.
I guess
they got a higher ranking with Vanity than they did with Steel.
I think Chaos was just like a victim of the fact that the NA scene was like in a really bad state at the time. And even though I think they had good pieces and were a good team, like it still just, it seemed like orgs just were hesitant to pick up a team that's just been like dominating the NA scene after like everyone went to Valorant and stuff.
Right, but like, why do you think the NA scene was in that state when you have a team like Envy paying Nifty a salary of like 18 grand a month, sitting there playing 7 events in a year? Like, come on, man.
I don't think anybody's going to be able to explain what was going on at Envy. I don't even think Hastro knows what the hell it was happening. Like, he even outed himself.
Yeah, but even the thing is that like even teams like Envy have just like left altogether rather than like I'm trying to think of it like an org that like went like a different direction at the time instead of like just picking up Chaos. But like all the other teams that like they all just kind of like left, you know, like Envy like left the scene for now.
But these people are still paying for their Flashpoint spot. Like, that's what I don't understand personally. And to Note's point, right? It's like they literally invested millions of dollars to get a Flashpoint spot. Admittedly, less millions than like some of the other leagues out there, right? But still, it's an investment, and maybe it is a rounding error for some of these teams. I don't know the internals, but surely if you're going to say I've invested $1 or $2 million or whatever it is for the Flashpoint spot, then maybe I should invest like 100,000 to get Chaos or whatever the money would look like, right? Like these people. It's not going to be the same as $2 million for the Flashpoint spot to secure a team like Chaos. Like, surely
it's like Thorin said. It's almost like some of these teams thought that the $2 million buy-in was just all that they would have to pay to get into Counter-Strike, and they didn't even consider the salary of the players. Like, how does that even happen? Yeah. I'm just still in shock.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the analysts and consultants for some of these or like people are doing their due diligence. Actually, I feel like it's just like it goes as deep as just saying like who who the hell are their like investment banker types that are like trying to help them put these decisions together? Because I feel like the amount of research they're doing is really bad. So
it's hard to convince like orgs and stuff to pick you up when you haven't had a chance. Like I think if Chaos, I think the thing that maybe killed them, like I think if they had like gotten to go to like that global challenge and whatever other land they had, and like they were able to go there and like put up like a good result, I think would have like really increased their chances of getting an org to pick them up. But I think the fact that they were never able to like go to Europe to prove themselves against like, you know, the region where everyone is at the moment, or they were never able to like, you know, go to lands together and like, you know, prove themselves at like, you know, dream hacks or like, you know, getting themselves to like a big event like ATK did, where, you know, we beat North in G2, and like that shit just like gives you so much momentum to like finding an org to the point where, you know, C9 picked this up after that. So it's hard to like convince those teams when, especially in the NA ecosystem, was like all you had. I think they would have had a lot better chance if they had been able to go to like global challenge and stuff.
Okay, let's move off complexity here. There's a couple teams here. I guess I was not. Okay, I'll say this. I was disappointed with Vitality. I don't know. I feel like nobody really particularly watched their games, but to me, this team, I feel like they're right now in a very actually emotional state, because I feel like they're just not. I don't know if they understand what their identity is or something, because it's not exactly like they're playing terribly, but like certain individuals are just not showing up. And I put together the stats for every team at Pro League and found the standard deviation with their players' ratings at the and Vitality had the highest standard deviation between all their players in terms of personal rating. And I think that's kind of a symptom of the fact that this team is like having this weird. I don't know. Do you guys think this is like a transition period? Are Vitality just going to replace somebody? Like this team felt like going into this event, they would show everybody again that they are a top 3 elite team in the world, like with Astralis, with Navi, but that they've definitely lost that title in my eyes. Do you guys think?
Yeah.
So RPK had the worst rating of any player at this event, and it was like people kind of weren't high on him last year, but like honestly, I thought he did his role.
He's a solid
fine.
anchor.
Yeah. I think this time around, he had some pretty like he had a pretty bad time. So do you guys think RPK would be his removal would be an answer here, and they pick up some other French player, or do they just have to work some things out?
I just feel like this team has been in an identity crisis since Apex was benched and then unbenched. Like this team has struggled since then, and I don't know whether it has anything to do with like Apex's emotional state or whether it has to do with like the team itself struggling to get back on the right footing. But like you're saying, like it's not just Apex struggling on the server, it's just the whole team in general. And to me, I don't know whether that indicates that like they have a leadership change that needs to happen or whether it means that they have a player change that needs to happen. Because now they've done this whole 6-man roster, like they've scrapped that idea basically, and they were one of the most like quote unquote promising teams that were doing it. So it really makes you wonder, like to me that indicates that they're not looking to make a player change. Because if they were going to make a player change, they would have brought Nevera in and swapped out a player, I think. And just like I feel like you can teach him the roles that you want to swap him into because he is one of the most promising players right now, at least in that scene. Like otherwise, I can't think of a player off the top of my head that you would swap in for RPK.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem with Nevera going separate ways from Vitality for me is it must have been a personality conflict or something, because it's not like he was bad in the server. It seems like he must have been disrupting something else, and we know that like the French scene is like.
Well, I think it was just like they couldn't do a 6-man roster anymore, so they had to get rid of someone
because of the RMR rules and whatnot.
There's still a ways off from that, and the idea that you go for Nevera over Masuda to me doesn't really make sense. Like unless you just think Masuda is going to be more all-rounded, like a well-rounded player, and they want to put Cyber back on the off or something.
I think Masuda fits much better as an individual. Actually, I think like Nevera's actually. I mean, past 3 months for Nevera, 0.93 rating, and he's opping. So that's awful. That's actually just terrible. Like that's just that you can't have an opper with that kind of rating.
I don't think Nevera fit into Vitality well enough to be like a full-time player as like the full-time 5th. I think they had to stick with Masuda in that case.
Does
Yeah.
Shocks
I
then
think
become the
the
more obvious weak link? Assuming RPK goes back to what he was doing, just average numbers, then what is the actual weak link then? If it's not Masuda, then Shocks is the player who doesn't have to play Inferno as often or whatever, like some of these other maps, right? So
Right.
that becomes a lot. There's just tons of question marks for me surrounding this team. And as Note says, it's ever since that they started playing around with whether or not Apex would be playing or calling or whatever. Like, I don't know how there was only like 3 or 4 series that Shocks was calling, but man, you're really like letting the genie out of the bottle, so to speak, when you get him in the IGL.
I think it was only one.
Okay, it might have only been
Yeah,
one.
it was pretty brief, but it's just I think the time period was like a week and a half or so.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. They benched they played like the first match of Blast or something, and then they benched Apex, and then they played the second match, was the elimination match, and they just lost.
Yeah.
And that was like that was essentially the only match Apex.
Yeah, and then he came back for Katowice, right? So yeah, it's just a weird one. Like, I don't understand why they're taking the calling duties away from Apex. If we trust the system and we trust the word of the players and stuff, then Xtaz isn't even calling, despite the fact that coaches have been able to for a while. And that means that it has to be laid all on the responsibility, all that responsibility presumably is being held up by Apex. So for me, it just seems weird to pivot away from that in the first place. That feels like maybe desperation, emotions running high. Xtaz says, we got to cut this out. You got to like take some time off. And then it feels like they were too desperate to play without him. And again, this is all outside because we don't have any transparent information, but this is kind of what we have to speculate on is why did they cut him? Why did he come back? Or not cut him, but like, bench him for a short amount of time. Why did he get unbenched immediately? Now, why are they doing the 6-man thing? They pass it off on the RMRs, but those are a ways off anyway. And they still could be, I guess they just want us to believe that they're training for the RMRs, in which case, well, that's their next proving ground. But it's almost like the Cloud9 thing to me, where the way that Vitality have been structuring their team for a while now has made every single event a proving ground that if they don't prove themselves again, then they just, like, the pressure continues to mount almost, if you guys know what I mean. Because they were supposed to be top 3. Like, that's the pedigree. They were supposed to be even in contention for top 1 in theory. But they've been far away from that for the last couple of months.
So hypothetical for you guys, if they don't do well at this next RMR event, what do you think happens?
They go international.
Well, the problem with making any roster moves afterwards is that your points get destroyed, right? So I don't even know if they would want to. I think maybe they try to ride this lineup out, but I don't know how much it'll be able to stick together, right? The French scene is notorious for
if you bomb out, then points won't matter much.
Fair enough.
You have to be counting on you have to be counting on like winning some of the other events just to like get back into the hunt.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends. Yeah, I think it just depends on how they do in that first event. Like, I think the first event's going to define like a lot like of the rest of the year. If it seems like they're like kind of like on a trail back up, they're doing well again, then they'll probably like stick with the lineup. I think if they were just like to completely bomb out and just completely completely fluke it or just fuck it, then probably they would try to make a change and get themselves back into contention.
I weirdly think I think for some reason I just have like RPK in the early 2013, 2014 era of CSGO. He just took like a 2-year break, just kind of cuz, and I think he worked at like a tire shop or something, like a mechanic or something like that, like a car place or something. And I feel like for some reason he just strikes me as someone that can be like, you know what, I'm just not enjoying what I'm doing here right now, and I'll step down for a bit here, something like that. So I feel like that's, to answer your question, I feel like that's what I would expect. I think RPK would say, I'm just going to take a seat for a bit. So have fun for now, guys. I'll come back when I'm needed, something like that.
Yeah, in 2 more years, take another break. Yeah, what I'm confused about,
our dark protector RPK comes back when he's needed.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
What doesn't add up for me anyway. I guess the worst thing for them would be to have a middling result, because then they have some RMR points that they don't want to sacrifice, but they didn't win, so like they're not going to be happy. And I just imagine if they're not banging the next couple of tournaments, then yeah, this lineup has probably run its course. But it's weird because going back to an earlier conversation point we touched on, I don't know who you replace anybody with. Like, even if you want to say RPK is the obvious out or Shocks is the obvious, whoever looks like the obvious out and whoever they think is the obvious out internally, if they're going to make a roster move, who are you bringing in for them, right?
Nick said he thinks they go international, which I'm curious to hear about.
Well, that's just what they said when Shocks joined. So like that's what their next move would be.
Interesting.
Oh yeah, they did. They like this would be the last full French version of it or something like that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But obviously that kind of changed because of Alex suddenly leaving, having to get someone so soon. But I think like the next time they have like the time to like, you know, fully explore their options. That's probably what they would do. I don't know. I think if they were to make a change, I don't think it's like a change. It's like enough where it's like you just change out one player.
Yeah.
I think you need to change out like a couple, and you need to like kind of like change the entire dynamic around. I don't like moves like from like a team like Vitality, just like, or like a team that's like kind of like been in this like zone that Vitality's been in. Kind of just seems to me like an identity change a bit. You know,
it would have been like if
changing out,
OG
like, one player at a time.
Yeah,
That I don't like that.
It would have been like if
All right,
OG
here-
only dropped MBK and then didn't drop Issa as well. Like you need more than just one player change at that point.
Hear me out here.
Okay.
You remove Apex and you remove RPK. You bring in game leader and you bring in John G to take up the entry frag role. Right there. There you go.
What I
I
want,
don't know
I
you bring it into that job. Vix's face tells you all you need to know about these moves.
I actually
Janji and
do want-
Zywoo.
Yeah, I do
Yeah.
want an international lineup. I want them to switch to English just because in like 2 years Zywoo can then join FaZe Clan or something. I just want to
It feels
see.
like most teams are moving towards international anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to see Zywoo on an actual like not necessarily limited to the French scene in case anything happens, any other opportunity that would be banging in the future.
They could get Lucky, who's been doing really well on this double pony lineup. Can't believe I'm saying that, but I'm just like glancing at their stuff right now, and
No, he's
they've
been pretty
actually-
good. He was in the EDC when I casted him. That
Yeah,
tournament
so-
I'm best known for, remember? So
yeah, that your shining work. Yeah, so I mean, there's like because I just went to HLTV and looked up who's the second best French team, and it is Double Pony, and they're ranked 40th in the world. So actually, they're not too far off from being from breaching into that top 30, and then people will start looking at their players as potential replacements. So maybe you could just jump the gun a little bit and just grab him before he's a hotter commodity and before this Double Pony lineup gets signed. Which I mean, if they make top 30, they almost surely will. I feel because there's some French orgs out there.
listen, they could just slot NBK in. It shares even a letter with RPK.
I was
They're pretty
actually
similar.
talking about this with Dinko, I think, and just like I think there's just there's like bad blood though, right, between Shocks and NBK, I think, and
At least
I don't know
according to
who
the
it's
interview with
between,
Richard
but
Lewis, he was like, "Yeah, everything's fine. It's no worries." So could happen.
Maybe they're like on good terms again, but I'm pretty sure there was bad blood when the initial split happened, at least.
okay, we've been talking about some teams that are making us unhappy. Let's go to who in this tournament so far has looked promising or just flat out good for you guys. I think no, what's a team you're liking? You like to watch their matches.
Dude, I love watching Liquid right now.
Okay,
Fallen
sweet.
is playing so well. Like I will say, like Elige banged out in that Virtus Pro game, but this tournament, Fallen was on one, man. Like his stats and also just his overall impact in the server was like very noticeable to me. I think, like, yeah, they definitely fucked up in the Astralis game in the sense, like, I actually think they should have won that game. Obviously they had to come back from I think like 2-13 down on overpass or something, but this is like the classic Liquid scenario where like they make it really close and then they fuck up like one of the most crucial rounds. I think it was like 14-13 or 14-14. They have a 4v3 post plant on B site and Naf just peeks out a pit, loses like this crucial round.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I was like, come on, guys, you had it so close. Like you played everything so cautious and perfect up until that moment, and then you lost like a crucial round. It went to overtime, and then
It
you
speaks
lost
a lot
there.
about Elige. That like note says like, yeah, Elige has been playing good, but Fallen has been fucking banging. And Elige's rating is like almost like 0.2 higher than Fallen still.
Yeah.
Because Elige
Well-
just averages like a 1.30 these days.
Exactly. Well, like his statistical impact and his impact on the server is nuts. Like Elige's
yeah, for
like
sure.
ridiculous. Don't get me wrong, but I think
Yeah, I agree.
Fallen has like helped elevate the overall team level because I think Fallen like not only brings in the like intangible impact of in-game leading and like being on the server in terms of like the motivational impact, but he also just like he is setting players up constantly. Like he's holding flashes for you and like just everywhere you go. Like half the clips that Elige has posted to Twitter with their team comms, Fallen's just like, I can flash this for you. I can flash this for you. And he's just like, yeah, flash. And he
Fallen
goes and
had
gets
the
like
most-
3.
Fallen had the most flash assists at this tournament per round. So I mean, yeah, he's doing a great job at that. He's even some players you would think are like the support dudes or something like that. Fallen is on top of it, and the fact that he has a good rating, additionally, like individually, yeah, he's providing a lot for this team right now. So that's That's a really good one right there. That game versus VP was like 1v1 Counter-Strike at its finest with Ykinder versus Elige. That was so fun to watch, actually, because I love watching both of those guys just pop off and just dominating everybody. It is so sweet. Do you guys think Elige is a? I feel like this is a pretty easy answer. Do you guys think Elige is a top 5 rifler in the world? Like, yes. Surely. Okay. How about this? How about top 3 rifler in the world?
Yes. Like rifler? Yes.
Yeah, just pure rifler. Yes, just pure rifler.
Yes.
Yeah, I think pure rifler. Yeah. Okay. How about? Do you think he is the best rifler in the world? That's where it gets hard, right?
That is a hard question.
Yeah.
Hang on.
How about top 2? Top 2.
Okay, when you're saying like pure rifler, that eliminates some of the best players in the game, like Simple on rifle, Nico on rifle, Zywo on rifle. Like suddenly, I think you've changed, you contorted the goalpost so much that of course he's the best. Like there might not be that many pure riflers left at this point.
I mean, I'm looking down the list of players, and I feel like there isn't anybody who can really oust him from that. Like, I honestly, right now, in terms of just the level of players online, I think it would be between Ykinder and Elige.
Yeah.
In terms of pure
and
riflers.
If I have to make like a ranking, I'm probably still going to give it to Elige just because we haven't seen Ykinder play at like big events yet.
Exactly. I think Elige plays late rounds better than Ykinder does, anyways. So
Ykinder's like, what? The clock still has.
Ykinder's like, what is a late round?
Well, that's a post plan.
I'm so confused. There's no 1 in front of the time at the top. What happened, guys? Is it over?
Despite the amount of the sheer value that Ykinder brings for VP in his early round things, and even mid round, I think he still does a lot for them. I think like if I want, sometimes you will just be in a clutch, sometimes you'll be in a 2v2, and I think Elige is just going to play that as absolutely well you can, and with having god tier aim. So like that's just everything you could want. So I think I would say Elige, like the 3 best pure riflers for me right now are probably Ykinder, Rops, and Elige, I guess. I mean, like, and Rops for me is actually kind of a distant third. So yeah.
Kind of sucks for Rops though. It just reminds me of like the old Nico sports. Like he's hard carrying the shit out of that team right now, man. Like,
like just waiting for his buyout, man. That's all.
The constant, like the consistency and the constant impact of like Ykinder and Elige have, because like they're both like pretty. Ykinder is obviously like more aggressive, but Elige is still pretty aggressive as well.
Yeah,
like,
he is. Yes.
And the fact that they consistently put up like these insane ratings, like this insane impacts, like I think they're just a level above every other rifler in the world.
Yeah. I think like Mir wishes he could do what Elige is. Like Mir takes a few too many risks. That's it.
If he's coming back into form, and especially when he is in form, Breeze is like another choice for me there.
Breeze would be up there. In terms of like pure mechanics, I think Breeze is easily top 5, but I think overall gameplay wise, I think Elige is a cut above him, which hurts to say because I think
in terms of pure mechanics, Twist is also way up there.
Yeah, I was gonna say Twist. Like I want Twist to come back into form so bad.
Yeah. You can see our NA bias is definitely on display right now. Like we're barely
all I care about is North America. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing though. Like last year when we were just online, like purely online, Elige was owning in North America, and people were like, "Okay, we have to see him play in Europe now because he's playing so like his stats were nuts over here." So to see him continue doing this in Europe is just like that's some nice vindication,
Yeah, he's definitely been validated at this point.
He's just never done anything on land, that Elige guy. I've never even heard of this guy. Just wait for land, boys. Wait for land.
Like, the thing about Elige is that I literally, whenever I see him take just like a normal one-on-one gunfight, I never see him lose it. Like,
I know. I know.
Like, I don't understand it, but he literally wins every single straight gunfight. Like,
I think Elige just like his aim is super crisp, but I also feel like when you say that one-on-one thing, it just seems like he knows what the other person is doing like all the time for some reason. Like he's always just like because there has been so many times at Pro League when I was watching him when I was like, oh god, Elige is gonna get cut off right here. Nope, you got the kill. All right, that's just like I think 80% of pros would have got caught by that. Whatever just happened, like this dude was kind of like in a position where it felt like from Elige's perspective he shouldn't be there, but Elige is just it's like when when a lot of riflers check one angle, they go like hyper focus mode, and then they kind of like half-ass check the next one. Elige, he checks like all 3 angles with like the utmost care and perfectly peeks all of them, and it's like, okay, you're like actually on another level in terms of visualizing your duels before you take them. So
Elige just has my utmost respect in the fact that he like has very tempered play. Like he knows when he has to fall off and when he shouldn't take a fight as well, which is I think probably what makes him so good as well. Like you look at that Deagle ace he got, he like owns 4 people at Fork and A-Ramp on Vertigo, and then he's just like, oh fuck this last guy, I'll pick him up later, and just goes away. I'm like, I love you for that. I think that's honestly like almost better than the first 4 kills he got. The fact that he fell off after that,
I thought for sure if I were there, I'm going for that last kill.
And almost every other player is too. That's the thing.
Yes.
Like almost every other player will go for that kill.
Yes. But to go for the to like, oh wait, we have numbers 2v1. Okay, I can fall back. I'll play off my teammate in the bomb site. Okay, now I'll get the ace. It's just like, holy, like, yeah, that kind of stuff does. It wins you those rounds that like it felt like, oh, I got the highlight already. I'll just keep going for more. But it's actually securing the round on top of it. That's genius right there. That's actually the complete package. Okay. I'll say this. I feel like nobody probably watched this team or cares about them at this tournament, but I think that OG is actually going to be on the upward trajectory really soon. I feel like if they pick up I guess it does rely on how Mihu's going to play for them. But Nico for me was this injection of firepower that I was like, holy crap. Like this is like putting it, just think of NBK versus Nico in terms of just pure mechanical ability. And it's just like, it's not even close. I realized after watching these games, like the amount
Nico has insane mechanics.
Exactly.
Very versatile. He can play a lot of roles. Like when I played with him on Rogue, he was playing like all like the god spots, like all the rotator spots and like part of the pack on T side with MSL and stuff. And then like on Heroic and like on OG, he just kind of like slotted into playing like a bunch of anchor spots and playing a bunch of lurk roles. Like,
yeah, but
he filled in.
I saw there was this one round. I think he played against, was it Big or I forgot some team on Inferno in his group. Basically he was in mini pit and he aced them by getting 1 kill at Porch early in the round. And then he played mini pit and all 4 players from, I think it was Big, were wrapping him. And he literally killed all 4 of them, and they didn't even shoot 1 bullet. Like I don't think I've ever seen that. Like 4 kills, none, and they were on guns. They had an op, they had 3 AKs, they were charging him, and he just destroyed them.
He took 1v1s against 4 players who were all facing him at the same time.
Yes,
which was like so impressive.
I don't understand. I don't know if that was like a those are one of those ones where it's like, guys, we just needed to peek him at the same time. It's like, oh, they did. They peeked him all at the same time. They just all died. It was just like, I don't know. I've never seen NBK do anything like that.
I think only the first fight was one that was isolated where he was like holding the angle from mini pit straight to Moto, where he got the first guy crossing, and then all 3 other people were on a screen at the exact same time for the rest of the kills.
Or the very first one, Porch. Yeah, when they're wrapping at that point. Yeah. I think you might be right about that. I just the fact that they didn't even get a bullet off on him was just incredible. So I'm looking forward to them. I'm excited to see what they can do, and I feel like that's a team that I'm gonna be looking out for in the future, because I just want for one, Alexi B to succeed. I want Valde to succeed. They're both players that I'm actually fans of, and I think Nico is a great piece to round out their roster moving forward.
Just based on everything that Thorn said about Issa's comms being so bad and interrupting Alexi B, I do feel like this team will be able to get like a good boost now that they have like that situation sorted out. As long as Mihu doesn't come in and is like a mini Issa, you know? But yeah. I don't think that'll be the case. He seems pretty solid. So
yeah, from all accounts, Mihu's like a pretty cerebral player unto himself, according to what people have said about his time during like Envy and stuff. So yeah. I think this is a team that they've got the training wheels off. MBK won't be secondary calling anymore, so you do have to rely more on Alexi B and maybe some of these other brainiacs.
I think Valde will do good.
Yeah, Valde will do perfectly fine in that role, I think. And then if you can just get Mihu to round everything out and not be an Issa, then you should be fine.
I actually think the roles on this team are very well fleshed out as well. So I think they will have good impact, given some more time with Mihu, obviously.
Yeah, I think I don't know who's gonna be like it doesn't matter. Actually, Alexi B is gonna run in first all the time, so
Yep.
that's fine. That takes care of their entry roles just the way you'd want them to. Also, something that I picked up on when I was watching them is that Valde is playing higher impact CT spots. So, I mean, again, I don't know if anybody really watched OG, but like he's playing. He used to play like long A on Dust 2, and I think now he plays like the B. He might be B rotator now, and also on Nuke he was stuck at ramp every round, and now he's playing mini. And mini is generally where you put your like best comms. Basically, if you have a rifler that just has god tier comms, that's like your mini guy, and hopefully he can frag out also because you.
Where does
face a lot of
Alexi B
people.
play on Nuke? I figured he would have been the outside guy.
I think he was before their outside guy, and
maybe he's like the door guy now.
Yeah, actually, I was more so paying attention to Valde, so I actually couldn't tell you. I think he was kind of like it was Nico behind Hut, or I mean, not behind Hut, behind Silo. Issa was ramp. Valde was mini, so I guess he would have to be.
Like he was like the door rotator guy. And then Mihu will probably play ramp should they go that direction because that's what he played for Envy. And actually, he had like a really nice way of playing ramp where instead of like using his nades at all, like most of the time, he would just kind of like spot it, like spot a little crack and save his smoke and his molly at ramp, which we ended up stealing. We called it like Mihu nades or something. It's like a really good way to play ramp.
Is it the thing where you kind of like face the ramp and you're like kind of showing your shoulder basically, and you can see the sliver through the right side of your screen? Yeah, yeah. I started actually doing
like
that
glaive.
too.
Yeah,
I started doing that a lot when I played MDL matches. Yeah, it's just like until they like just kind of wallbang you with an op, you basically can get away with that every single round.
Yeah, because like who really rushes ramp these days? Like
seems like Alexi's playing mini. By the way, I'm just looking at their VOD.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess they like interchanging it or here and there. But I saw Alexi moving around a lot. Actually, I saw him like doubling up sometimes at ramp. I saw him outside. He's a pretty mobile dude. So, all right.
What did you guys think of Astralis this tournament?
Ooh, Astralis.
I haven't watched them really.
I actually didn't really watch them except for the EG loss, really, and the Liquid one. I watched the Liquid one. Oh wait, no, I lied. I watched them against VP too. Damn, it's because they're always the enemy of who I'm rooting for. So I like don't pay attention. I watch these games if I'm watching as a fan. I watch it in the context of like, okay, what's EG doing? Oh, that's cool. That's really sick. Okay, good for EG. Oh VP, come on, you just needed to get that one. Or Liquid, same thing. But Astralis are just like those. Yeah, okay, they do a lot of things really
It's the classic phenomenon of like Astralis has been so good for so long, you just root for any team that's against them, right?
Yeah, I mean, 3 teams in this group I'm big fans of in Liquid, VP, and EG. So yeah, and I like Fnatic when they. I don't like this Fnatic roster. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not a fan of this at all. Like,
yeah, I think I watched one map from this new Fnatic roster.
Yeah, it's just I watched them at CS Summit, and I just was like, I guess they did okay there, but like it just felt like the roles were like if they don't win the round within 50 seconds, they just lost everything. So they are. I'm not too much of a fan of them anymore.
I will say Device has been on one this tournament though.
Mm-hmm.
Like this group stage, he was going absolutely nuts. Like I think he said it after the Liquid game where he hit a flow state towards the end of Dust 2, but I just feel like in most of their matches this tournament, he was in a flow state. Like he was making perfect decisions, like perfect timings, perfect reads. Like he was in the right spots all the time, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of the scary aspect of Astralis is that they already have a lot of the tactical system set up to some degree. So if they can play tactical like Astralis can play, like old Astralis, if you will, but they've got some star player that can pop off like Simple does. Like that is the somehow combined forces to create CSGO Exodia where there's no coming back from that. You're just done. There's no, how do you defeat like the old idea of if you just replace Device with Simple but still have him be Danish? Like, oh, okay, then there's nothing. You can do nothing, surely. So that's the scariest part about this Astralis lineup, if Device can pop off. But they still have to kind of make up for Magisk. I guess he did okay at this tournament. I didn't really watch a lot of their games.
He said his confidence was low, but he wasn't actually playing that badly from what I captured. Like he still can be a beast in pit. And actually looking at his stats, 1.10 rating. So my eyes weren't deceiving me. I felt like he was doing fine, but then this narrative kind of came up that he was not playing like himself. So whatever.
Well, the problem was
think
that there were cases where he was expected to multi-frag, and there were basically 3 rifle rounds across, like, I think it was something like, it was some double-digit amount of demos that were analyzed, and only in 3 rifle rounds did he multi-frag, and everything else he got 1 and died. So, like, that was that was like the main point, the statistic in favor of the narrative, so to speak.
He's still getting one, unlike RPK, who had a tough time.
Yeah.
So
I think he plays well. He just doesn't. He's lost the confidence since he had the IGL, basically.
Okay,
like that's in his own head, probably.
He started looking at the radar a little bit more. All right, he'll come back soon, guys.
Yeah, just get the eye tracking on, and then the sports psychologist: do not look in the top left. Do not.
Yeah.
Breathe deeply.
Okay, let's move on from Pro League. Let's move on from Pro League. Let's briefly touch upon this. So. I usually want to get a guest that, worked on some event or was playing at one, whatever it is, something relevant to what's happening now. And Pr0nogo, you actually casted at the Venn Invitational Spring. For people in NA, this was like basically our Blast Spring Showdown qualifier game. And so I guess tell us about that a little bit. What did you see? Any teams that impressed you in the NA space?
So before we even sat down and cast the event, we had to kind of shadowbox the bracket as far as who to prepare for, because we didn't have too much notice before the event. So obviously we expected Extra Salt to make it to the winners bracket, and then after that it was Triumph Pain to decide the second position. And I will just say, even though I've just casted the event, the kind of guy I am, why the fuck is it best of 1s to decide this? You guys are clowns. Please change it to best of 3s. All right, now that I've insulted my employer, I will now say the event was pretty good. The game that we casted was very high quality. We casted that opening best of 3 in the playoffs. And finally, because it was a best of 3, we got to see some pretty good competition. The thing about Triumph for me, which is obviously the roster that ended up losing 0-2, that doesn't tell you the whole story. That game was very close on the second map, which is not where Triumph were favored. They picked Dust 2 and Extra Salt. And Extra Salt absolutely destroyed them by winning every pistol, or both pistols. And then at that point, like, there's not really much of an opportunity if you can't defeat them in the rifle rounds. The whole idea was Triumph were kind of picking it as a gimmick coin flip, and it just did not come up their way whatsoever. Now, when they got on to Vertigo, that was the map that went all the rounds, and I fully expected Triumph to surprise and take us to a third map, because I just figured Extra Salt thought that now this was their time to be in the bag. They actually got over the hard hurdle in the first map, and now they're going on to their own map picks. Everything should be fine. So yeah, it quite surprised me that there was that competitive from Triumph. I almost kind of wish the scores were reversed and they had actually been able to take Dust 2 and make that a more exciting map. But Vertigo ended up being as exciting as a Vertigo can be, I guess, besides not having overtime. But then again, nobody wants to be on overtime on that map. Come on. When is that getting out of the pool? We can talk about that later too. But yeah, so there it is.
Dust 2 first, please.
Oh yeah. I think they should just replace them all at this point. Just get them. Let's keep. Can we add
Train
Split and
Overpass?
Icebox?
No, you keep Overpass and Nuke, and I don't give a fuck about any of the others. So
Overpass, Nuke, and Train.
No
for me.
Inferno fans in here. Damn.
I'm a pretty big Inferno fan, but only in terms of
I'd be down to keep Overpass, Nuke, Train, Inferno.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's
drop the
rest.
Drop the rest.
Those are the good 4.
I agree.
For me. Those are the fantastic 4 for sure.
Fantastic.
On the note of Triumph, though, I think Sneaky is actually like he continues to impress me on this team. Like, I think he's only had a month on this roster, but in general, like from talking to Sheikh Zula as well,
he's playing
Cynic? Really well. Yeah, Sneaky is Cynic.
Oh, okay.
I think he's playing really well, and also from talking to Sheikh, he's saying that. Now, Sheikh Zula has brought up like so many players at this point, by the way. Like, he's played with Floppy early on, he's played with Grim, he's played with Junior now. He's saying, from talking to Sheikh, he says that Cynic could be like another prodigy level talent coming out of his team as long as he keeps improving at the current rate he is. Now, obviously, like, you can't extrapolate that to continuing to grow at this rate, but I think just given Sheikh Zula's influence on players, I think that he does have that potential. My worry is that Viz and B-Wells have been a little bit lackluster in this team. Viz as an anchor especially, like, Viz was pretty good, I would say. I'm surprised that his level's gone down this much. And I think that's sometimes what costs them rounds, unfortunately.
I think the problem with Triumph in this map here that I saw was just that Cynic himself was actually getting destroyed on CT side, but he was almost destroying himself by just walking into enemy players. And that was the case where, like, you look at that and it almost feels like he doesn't know how to play Inferno. Or I mean, not Vertigo. It doesn't look like he knows like he has the set strategy. And so I don't know if maybe he was just picking the wrong angle on a map that's very punishing if you do that. Like you can't really pug that one out as if you've never played it on a pro level, especially against a team that has the confidence to pick it themselves. Like they're going to have the executes, they're going to look at the angles, and maybe they even expected that to some degree from Cynic. But yeah, for me, that was the biggest issue. If Sheikh Zula doesn't drop like 30 frags or something crazy in that map, then they just don't. It's not even close to competitive because they got themselves out of so many 4v5s, and it was off the back of Cynic getting picked a lot in those rounds.
Yeah, I've been in the beginning. I think I was most impressed by Cynic, and then actually lately, I've found it feels like Cooper has like a really like tough burden on this team, like to make their CT sides workable because like I feel like he has to pick up a lot of slack sometimes for them. I think B Wills has been an okay anchor, but Viz has been like pretty underwhelming, but I will say that I feel like he kind of has a lot of shit spots that he hasn't really fleshed out. Like I feel like he needs to take like it kind of sometimes is like he's on that lurk side of the map, and the way he's been taught how to play that side has been like and this is Viz, I'll just like say like I feel like you need to just like look at those spots and how like the best pros play them and try to take a couple more risks here and there. I think because right now I think you're seeing it in this binary of like if I die I lose, if I get killed because they push good. Like it's just like it's more like sometimes like you'll see pros on those like 4-1s. The one guy will actually kind of like jiggle something out and be like, wait a second, I'm getting more info, I'm getting more space. So it's like, oh wait, I actually found a timing because they were trying to walk peek into me.
Dude,
like
yeah.
Things like that.
The thing is that especially in online CS, you can't play a CT side where you're just like static and you're just not doing anything. Yeah. You have to swing and you have to like take the fights to them. You can't just let them like swing on you every time because you're just gonna lose. Like especially online, like you need to be like initiating the fights a lot more CT sides than you would on LAN.
Yeah, so I kind of want him to like just take a few more risks, and even if it's like just if I want the rest of Triumph to buy into it too. I think Viz is like able-bodied enough that he can take like a 2 risks per half or something like that,
sure.
and they'll be fine with it. Like, you know, if he goes 50-50 on those, maybe like one of them will just win you around because he just now has so much info on the weak side of the map for the CTs, and if he loses one, then well, maybe the strat was going to go away from him anyway, so it didn't matter what he did. So that's how I would see it. Okay, so we are on a time constraint here, so let's just move on to the Patreon questions here. So we've got a few. Thank you guys for sending these in. Be sure we have a few people that aren't sending them in, and if you guys are supporting the podcast, why not send them in? You know, just get your questions out there. So let's start with the first one here. Do you have these up, Pr0nogo, or should I just read them out?
Yeah, you can read them out. I got them in front of me.
Okay, so the first question comes from Fursock, and he's asked, would you rather have the current Liquid lineup as it is, or be in a hypothetical universe where instead of Fallen and Grim, Liquid have Elige, Naf, Stewie, Kerrigan, and either Junior or OC?
I mean, I'd kind of want to see the second one just because I could have OC on it.
Yeah,
and like, and like it's like kind of like my personal bias reason, but I really like the lineup that Liquid is trying to roll with now. I really like the Fallen experiment. You know, it's someone that I know Elige is like always wanted to play with, I'm sure. So I really like the current Liquid lineup and kind of seeing how it keeps going. But I definitely think the second one would be so interesting, like Kerrigan, because Kerrigan's like the perfect IGL for like a.
Yeah, that's what does this hypothetical for me. Kerrigan coming into Liquid instead of Fallen would probably be just like. Yes, please.
Yeah,
but obviously the issue is there's no AWP, right? So you would have to make another cut, which is where Junior presumably comes in.
Yeah. So yeah, I think like I would honestly say the second one, maybe it's just like a grass is greener type of thing. I really want to see like OC on a team of Kerrigan also all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Like it'd be funny, but yeah. That's just like my personal opinion.
If they get Kerrigan, I mean, they'll finally be able to beat Astralis, is how I see it. Like that's the missing piece.
I mean, to be fair, Fallen's also someone that's always like been one of the people that had Astralis' number.
Maybe back in like 2016, 17.
No, but I'm saying no, even recently? Like 2018.
Oh yeah. Even the 2018 lineup was still beating Astralis. Like
the only team that was like consistently having good matches and at times beating Astralis was that MIBR lineup with Stewie.
Also, one of the few teams that could consistently beat FaZe with Kerrigan. So I mean, hey, like we're coming up on the phase era, perhaps where Kerrigan and Twist are gonna start, combining to bang everybody out. So we need the Fallen counter. You know what I mean?
Fallen and Kerrigan are the two IGLs that I think really seem to have a Charles' number a lot of the time. Stan as well.
Stan,
it wasn't Stan. Was it Stan or was it just EG as a whole?
dude, no, Stan. Stan has had their number since Elige season.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
yeah. I remember that train game so vividly because I took so much out of it. That's how I like to play my trains.
I want to say I like the second lineup. I still think the first is like I'm a fan of this current lineup. Yeah, Too big of a fan.
In this, the question is just like, would you rather have it? Okay, yes, I would rather have the second. But like, am I upset?
Would I actually make the replacements at the moment to do that? If I could, probably not.
No, you have to have some serious balls to just say, "Hey, I know you guys you're banging out. Everything is going well. Let's just change everything for no reason."
That's only something if like I could go back like 6 months and somehow alter the timeline so that it happened like naturally or something. Maybe.
Okay,
you just have to get the CSGO scriptwriter job next.
Yeah,
next on your line.
Okay, next Patreon question here. We got Patrick Roland saying, "Hey, with PUBG's international, and I think international should kind of be like in air quotes, maybe just like their big tournament, having a $6 million prize pool due to crowdfunding and claiming the spot of highest FPS prize pool. How many years do you guys think it'll take for Valve to finally follow suit?" I don't know if they. Well, I think they might keep upping the prize pool number because the next major is supposed to have a $2 million prize pool.
That's just because it was combining two majors. I'm actually surprised they didn't make it 3 because now it's been like 2 majors time has gone and before we get the third. So
that's secondly the 4th major. So because there would have been another one at the start of this year on like a normal schedule.
And Valve now is substitute for community just communication and back and forths is just throwing more money at them. They are the rich parents that just like leave the expensive like steak on the table and it's like, hey, heat this up. I'm not going to be home tonight or whatever. It's just like that's like what they do for TI every year. Just
not even a fresh made steak, like microwave it.
There's no love. There's no love there. I'll tell you that. No, we got delivery from the steakhouse or whatever. You're like, here, enjoy. It's just like. So I think they might up the ante in terms of money, but I don't know. I already feel like if they would have ever done crowdfunding for CSGO prize pools, they would have done it by now. Just my opinion, though.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like the route they want to take.
Right.
Oh, there's some just feel like bizarre justification too, where Valve was like, "Well, we don't want to do things that work in Dota to CS:GO. We want to do things differently in CS." It's just such a cop out to me.
I'm pretty like
the view of it is that like it works in Dota, but it also does like it is a fact that like they had to make like an entire new system for Dota because like none of the other events like fucking mattered at all.
Yeah. I follow
the thing
Dota.
Is they don't even have to do that in CS. Like they've done something like that in CS already with the old like Pick'em fantasy system that they had. Like bring that in, make people pay, I don't know, like $10 and just have that as like your major like Pick'em. Like in Dota, I think during the international you can like pick where certain things will happen, like who will win like this tower or whatever at what time. You can pick like who will win this pistol round, blah blah. Like there's so much you can add to it without actually like needing to do too much.
If they added a compendium, I would be all over that. I would make so much content surrounding it, just like my picks, why I think these things, like I'll pull up stats and things like that would be super sick. But I think they're just kind of like okay with divvying the money between the players based off of stickers or whoever puts more money on certain things, but they don't add it to the prize pool per se. And I'm actually a fan of that route because of what Mix was saying. Like I follow Dota. I used to follow Dota much closer, like for TI 3 through 7 or so. But lately it does feel like to me, like all I really care about is the international, like, because I'm not as involved, like, because I'm way more into CS now. And I don't want CS to ever become like that. I like Katowice being an important tournament, even if it's not a major, like it feels great. So let's just play
like an event that's like not even a major, like Cologne is like so important to win, like for like every player.
Yeah. People just there's esteem in the events themselves as opposed to just the Valve sanctioned ones, which is great. Okay, next question by Jiggly Puffing here. I've seen many people say Riot are better game devs because they are involved. In an ideal world, what should Valve be doing to establish confidence? Well, we just talked about it. Just make a crowdfunded prize money. No, just kidding. Don't do that.
Yeah, there's no way you can be confident if you're like simultaneously cynical and learned in the space of game development as has trended historically with esports. It is impossible to be confident in a game developer. They invariably fuck everything up every time. Riot has run League of Legends into the ground in terms of game balance, and the same is going to happen to Valorant. Mark my words. You check this podcast a year from now, you ask yourself if Valorant is as fun to play, or if you can even play it without installing a fucking rootkit to your PC, dude. Like, these guys have no idea what they're doing. Riot have no idea what they're doing. Ever.
I don't think it's necessarily a case of being like that super hands-on, like that involved, but like I feel like Valve could like pump a little bit more of the money they make from CS back into the esport.
Yeah, Valve could do a lot of stuff, but you can't rely on them to certainly basically you can't rely on a developer to make quality content. That's not what developers do. They just make microtransactions and make you buy them, which is Valve's fucking MO right now. So I
just think one of the few things Valve could do is revamp their like internal matchmaking system. Like, there's no need for it to be as outdated as it is currently.
Yeah. Player experience stuff absolutely should be raised up. Yeah. No,
I think one of the things with Valorant is that you see a lot of these players talking about playing the ranked mode that's in the game already. And I think one of the benefits is obviously like you do have essentially a rootkit anti-cheat on your PC that is like ESEA already.
It's a skeleton though. It doesn't work, guys. We haven't filled it in yet. We don't know what we're doing.
So like you do have that. So it does allow you to have like a better matchmaking system in that sense, but also like you have a proper ranked structure. Like, look at how screwed the ranks are right now in Counter-Strike. No one's playing like no top players are playing right now.
Never. I just played yesterday, so I don't know what you're talking. I just got global yesterday again.
All right, sorry. Top player Mauisnake, Elige, Yakinder, Mauisnake, top 3 riflers in the world.
Yeah, of course. No, I agree. I agree with that. I agree with all of that. I think also people might say right now that sure, like Riot are being good at communicating, but Valve was really good at communicating for the first couple years of CSGO because they knew the game was bad and they wanted to make it better. And then they peeled off after because it's like
diminishing returns.
Okay, I will say this. I'm not going to give Valve a break because they do mess up and they do but I will say like there's not a lot I really want them to do. I think the game is in such a good state in terms of balance. For example, like, okay, I would want new maps. There's a handful of complaints, want new maps, change the deagle a little bit, maybe change that shit where it smokes and the way they dissipate, seeing out of them versus in of them. Like, there's little things like in terms of mechanics I would want to see, altered. But with Riot, they have to do this. If they don't do this, like, people are gonna be like, what the fuck are you guys doing with this shit or whatever? And even if they had the same changes, the fact that they just explain some of the changes makes it seem like they have some train of thought that, they say they have like a train of thought, but then I'm trying to think of like specific examples, but then it's like, some guns just become completely unusable, or like they don't even really affect anything, or like, they patch agents, and so like there's some of their balance changes aren't perfect, but they just explain them. And I think people take that as a substitute for actually a good change. So I don't know if it's always like the perfect one, but just because people are being talked to, they're being told that something's good, so they believe it's good, whether it is or isn't.
Isn't that something that happened with Valve in the early days as well, where they would actually publish some degree of a reasoning, a developer note as to why something was changed, and then that got turned into like a laughing stock because everything they said was just provably false at the high level. So they just didn't understand their own game, which is another reason why you can't trust them to make balancing decisions, right? And that's the thing. Like, when I say you can't trust a dev, that doesn't mean that the dev should have no responsibility or whatever. They should just appoint people who actually do understand it at a high level for my money. That's what, like, as a developer myself, that's what I'm going to do if I somehow don't understand my own game to that degree. So that's what Valve should do. And if they did that, then they would get the right feedback. They would know Deagle's overpowered in the body. They would know like smokes are fucked up right now. I'm assuming they know all of this stuff because they look at Reddit and they respond to fucking like Neymar Jr. on Twitter. So like they've got to be doing something. But they don't seem to be doing much that we want.
They just followed like most casters and things like that and analysts, but then they didn't follow me. I was like, okay, shit. All right, guys.
Should we take a bet? Who's going to get the follow from CSGO first out of all 4 of us?
Okay. What are the odds here? Is it just one to one? Because I'll just bet on myself. I think I will get it.
We all have to bet on ourselves, and then whoever wins Whoever gets it first gets to like retweet the. I don't know.
Listen, man, the last bet that happened in the podcast did not go favorably for the person making it. So
That is true. We still don't have those VP jerseys from Scrawny, motherfucker. I'm calling you out. Where's my jersey? Yeah. So there you go. I don't know if that's an answer to the question, by the way. I have no idea. Should be fun.
Okay. Well, actually, we will try to answer it. In an ideal world, what should Valve be doing to establish confidence?
Yeah.
It's just I hire Sean Gares 2 years ago.
Actually, probably the best response you can have to that question.
Yeah. Okay. Because we're limited on time, I think we're just gonna jump right into the question of the week here. So this question here is something that I've been very back and forth on. It's something that I think we really did touch upon earlier, especially about Cloud9. But the question is, how important is team morale and just overall mentality for playing tier 1 Counter-Strike?
Yeah, like to me, it's literally like, I think like obviously you're gonna need like good team play, you're gonna need good individuals, you're gonna need all this shit. But like none of that shit is gonna ever work if you don't have at least decent morale and decent mentality. Like having like a good morale and like a good way to like build up confidence and like, just something to build around in terms of like, mentality, like that's like the bare minimum, I think, for getting a good team running on the ground. Because like if you have that and you have like the team morale is good, even if your strats are fucking terrible, like most likely you guys are running those like strats together and like you're just playing this like dumb brand of CS together, and you're still gonna have like some decent results most likely, because it's Counter-Strike, and at the end of the day it's a very, aim is like a very important part of Counter-Strike. I think it's like 75% of the game. So if you're confident in your aim, you're confident in that, then you're still gonna be able to get some results. But like if you have like the best strats in the world, you have like sick individuals, but like the team morale is like in the dumps, or like the team just isn't meshing at all, like you're just not going to find results.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's pretty evident like you can even take a recent example, like Astralis were playing incredibly well. Team morale went down clearly, like in the last couple of months. Their results went down, and now they're back. Like you can tell that stuff is changing in that camp. Like once they started boot camping again, like this whole EPL group was them boot camping. Like you can easily tell that their morale is back and they're playing well together. So it's pretty evident, I think, and I think you pretty much nailed it there in the sense that like you can have as good structure as you want, but it's always going to be hamstrung by your overall team morale.
Pr0nogo, any thoughts?
I gotta say, regarding team morale specifically, it does feel like something that's hit a new low for a lot of teams in the online era. And I'm not really sure what strategies you have to put into place, because it feels like it's one of those things that a lot of the veteran players don't even want to spend time on. This is, again, just my speculation from what I've seen from like interviews and just following them on social media and stuff. But it feels like they know they can do it on LAN. And so spending a lot of time relearning and maybe even doing stuff that's incompatible with LAN, but will work for the short-term online period, feels like maybe not pointless, but like counterproductive for their overall career. And I think another aspect of this is that we've never really put an end date on the lockdowns, on when LANs come back. Like we don't really know. We don't even know technically if the major is going to happen. We certainly hope it will, but like we can't even necessarily guarantee that. So we're counting on that. We're banking on that. But if it doesn't happen, then I think that will even be a bigger morale loss for tier 1 teams as well, because they're hoping to come out into form, into LANs even before the major goes live, so that they can prep for that new environment. And then I think maybe the teams that only ever played online stuff, like Gambit Youngsters, for example, didn't play a lot of LANs as that team. Like there's a ton of teams that didn't play a lot of LANs that they've only really known online CS, so that hasn't hit their morale in the same way, where they haven't really felt that much of a difference. I think that's probably a major factor. And I think I don't know to what extent it's affecting the performances, but I definitely think it's negatively impacting the team cohesion, and that will naturally lead to explosions down the line, I think, if left unchecked.
Seems like Gambit will have an inherent advantage in terms of team morale and mentality, because they haven't experienced like going from LAN to LAN to LAN, playing these majors, playing these big events, playing in front of like these crowds, like in this environment, like, and like before COVID, we spent the last like 2 to 3 years phasing out online games as much as we could, because everyone said that online is shit, online games mean nothing. And then so now we're coming back into an environment, well, because guess what, everything's online. And it's like, but you still have that mentality in your head where like, one, like whoever wins these events, like let's be honest, like people are gonna look back, no one's gonna really care that much, you know, like
Yeah.
they'll notice that you succeed in the online era, but like in terms of like the credit you're gonna get for that, especially if you don't transform it into LAN performances, people just aren't really gonna care, you know, like, and so I think that really affects morale and mentality a lot when it feels like every game you play, there's so many more consequences for losing than there are like positives for winning.
Yeah. I think one cool, like kind of cool thing about the online area is that a lot of teams that had problems, I think a lot of those like problems on the teams were exacerbated by the fact that it was online. And then they just decide like, might as well make the changes now. Why not now? I mean, like it's better now than later. So like, for example, Liquid, change out Grim. They put change into, or, Fallen and Grim additions, which are now giving them a new look that when they do go back to LAN, I feel like this team is just reinvigorated. Whereas another roster like Astralis, they've been kind of having a little bit bumpier road, I would say. I mean, they've had some success. They've won a few tournaments here and there, but if they don't win Pro League, for example, and then let's say in a month or two's time, we go back to LAN, they're going to some of those losses are going to be hanging over their heads as they move back into the LAN environment. Whereas a team like Liquid, they were like, all right, guys, let's take the training wheels off now. We're on LAN for the first time as 5. Let's get amped up for it. And they can reach a level that they've never been at before, which is similar to like the Gambit thing that Mix mentioned, where it's just like, they've never done LAN at all. So like Liquid for me have like the right blend of, we've been using this time to practice, and now this is the real deal. And we're actually ready because we've been in these situations before on major stages.
I feel like the online era has almost put some of these teams that only played online on more even footing versus some of the top teams than it would have otherwise, just because maybe if this online era had lasted 6 months, that wouldn't have been the case. But the fact that it's lasted like almost over a year at this point, when we go back, there's going to be ring rust on some of these top teams that have only played LANs. Like, not playing LANs for over a year is going to have an effect on them. So when you have these teams that have really only played like majority online tournaments, and you get to LAN, and you have these teams that used to only play LAN also coming back on LAN, they're going to be a little bit better off, but not by a substantial amount like they would have been before. So like some of these teams like Gambit, I think people are overestimating the impact that going online is going to have on them.
I guess to bring the question back a little bit to what I was actually originally thinking about this, is that the reason I came up with this one is for a couple of reasons. One is because I played a recent season of Premier, and our morale was like really bad a lot of the time, and we would be ahead so many times. Like I think we were up like 14, probably like 14-12 or something against Triumph, and we could have closed out the series and beat Triumph 2-0. But we kind of like started focusing on past mistakes and things, and it was just like went downhill. Then we end up losing the series 2-1. And also, I was listening to, I don't know if you guys follow the Valorant scene, but Trippy, the coach of FaZe, was on a podcast with, I think his name's Kaplan. He's the coach of Ghost. And they were talking about this for like literally 30 plus minutes, that the reason FaZe is so successful in Valorant right now is because they're all a group of friends that are just like always having fun. And I was like, okay, like no wonder it doesn't look like you guys have strats sometimes, because you're just playing, how to have fun or whatever. Like they have strats. They're not just going completely crazy all the time, but they do.
But
they do have a
one
looseness.
aspect that like will change a lot is that like going to LAN does like affect your mentality and stuff, obviously. But like it also just in terms of like I think I'm not sure, but like Valorant on LAN could even like be more drastic of a difference than CS, just in terms of like how slow the player models seem to be and how like big the peaker advantage seems to be.
Oh yeah, actually,
in Valorant. Like that is a huge thing that changes the entire dynamic of the game. Is like how much more impactful just like wide swinging everything is online compared to LAN. It's so
peaking is gonna suck. Actually,
it's so much easier to hold angles on LAN.
Yes, for sure. Okay, well that can be something that, you know what, we could just end it there. I think that's gonna reach our time here. Everybody, I mean, let's start with Pr0nogo. What have you got to shout out? We got the shout outs portion now.
Shout outs. Well, shout out to you for having me on. Shout out to an unnamed North American player playing in a Brazilian lineup for allowing me to come on as a guest. And
he's an opper as well. Don't forget that.
Yeah. Shout out to an unnamed North American opper. And then shout out to a named North American opper. Oh no, I won't steal Josh Mix's shout out. He always shouts out OC. And then I'll shout out. Yeah, it's nice to see Extra Salt taking that. It'll be nice to see them in Europe finally. Hopefully, we can put some of that stuff. I'm a bit of a European chauvinist when it comes to CS, so when it's nice to see some good strats out of a North American team. We'll finally put that whole debate to bed when they show up, and assuming they're
Still
actually
South
able to
African
do
strats.
stuff. Yeah,
They
yeah,
are
there
South
it is.
African though. Yeah.
Well, there's some North American players on it. Come on, give me some credit.
Well,
I only
true.
casted them.
They have 3 from 3 different countries. It's a very dynamic team.
They're an international.
I'm sure that
roster.
makes the situation getting to Europe super easy for them as
Oh
well.
yeah, I'm sure it'll be great. 2 South Africans, a Mexican, an American, a Canadian. It'll be easy.
Perfect.
No. What's your shout out?
I have 2 shoutouts. One is FaZe Valorant, all of that team chemistry you're talking about. I'm sure that'll last very long after this ESIC report comes out. Yep, no problem.
Oh my god!
I forgot about that.
I'm sure that's gonna be a long-term team chemistry environment that's gonna last. Yep. And second, I'll say I'm assuming this is going out tomorrow, so shout out dust2.us.
There it is.
All right, Mix, what's your shout out?
God bless you, OC.
Jeez, I want to give a good shout out now too. Shout out to just fuck it, dude. I've never even said this here, but follow my Twitter. The lamest. Oh,
Yeah,
shout
yeah,
out!
I'm sure.
Forgot. Nope. Shout out Topo Chico. Shout out Topo
Oh,
Chico.
yeah.
There you
Refreshing beverages.
What does
crisp
that
taste.
actually taste like?
What is it? Yeah.
It's like sparkling. It's like the best sparkling water in my opinion.
Okay,
I
hate
think
So it comes
sparkling
in
water is so
flavors,
garbage.
or-
no. So
I
the thing
agree.
is, so sparkling water is usually not that tasty, but this is like, you know how those memes earlier, I'd say in like last year, that people were talking about like, yo, McDonald's Sprite hit different. Topo Chico literally hits so different. It's so carbonated that it's actually like it assaults your tongue with how bubbly it is. That it's actually like it almost feels like I'm drinking a beverage that is like Sprite. Like it's if I want to actually be healthy and not drink, any like sodas, alcohol, whatever, I think Topo would be 100% my drink of choice. It only has like a little bit of sodium just for like a little bit added bite, but it's just super super carbonated, and it's way better than Perrier or what are those shitty ones? I'm trying to think of like other sparkling water. It's obviously better than shit you get.
I need to make a confession at the end of this pod, and now that I'm like the C19 is coming to an end.
Okay.
Is the drink that I drink the most is White Monster. That is my favorite, absolute favorite drink. That shit is the stuff from the gods, and that is, yeah.
I'm just gonna say, Alex,
Red Bull doesn't have a drink like that.
If you want to drink something that isn't pop and you want it to be healthy, there is this delicious thing called water.
Dude,
just like normal water.
Sometimes when you're eating certain like especially heavy foods,
Dude,
like if I'm eating like
True.
a burger, like I want something to cut the greasiness of the burger. So seltzer water is just way better than that. Like, okay, yes, I enjoy water. I drink probably like 2 liters of water every day also, but sometimes I just want a beverage. Like beverages that have like characteristics are better with meals than water. Like almost always.
This segment brought to you by It's Server Time, never getting a beverage sponsorship because we just screwed over every pop sponsor we could get.
I like a lot of soda.
You act like if someone wanted to sponsor us, we wouldn't instantly just like sell out. Like,
Oh, and of course.
I mean, if any drink wants to sponsor us, like I'll instantly change my opinions on my favorite drinks just for you.
I'm a huge
My
carbonated
opinions-
water fan.
Who says I'm not doing that right now with Topo Chico?
My
Okay,
opinions can be
and that's
changed
gonna
at
be
any time
that's gonna be that's
with
gonna-
money.
All right. Goodbye.
Peace.
See y'all later. Follow everyone's Twitter. Bye bye.